Story 1. I stopped reading productivity books and watching productivity YouTube channels completely. It made a massive difference. Productivity content is a trap that makes you feel productive without actually doing anything worthwhile. Story 2. Getting up at 4 a.m. because all those productivity experts recommend it ended up making me exhausted and unproductive by 2 p.m. It turns out my natural rhythm of waking up at 7 works just fine, and I actually get more done. Story 3. Making the perfect to-do list, then spending the whole day admiring it instead of actually doing anything. Story 4. Information is rarely the obstacle. We often know what to do and when. Being productive is fundamentally about adhering to that knowledge. No amount of reading or training will make it easier to deny the path of least resistance. Story 5. The vast majority of kitchen gadgets, once you consider the time to retrieve and clean them, are usually less efficient than simply using the knife you already have in hand. Story 6. Using applications that help you minimize app usage. There are no effective solutions available for me, and I have wasted a lot of time trying to find the right one. Focus on using your applications less. Story 7. Copilot coding in multiple files or projects requires giving at least 4 to 5 prompts to iterate and follow coding guidelines. It is important to produce accurate code, maintain file structure, and address unit tests and compilation errors. This involves using GitHub Copilot and GPT-4. Story 8. That is the way we have always done it. Conversely, changing for the sake of change is a massive waste of time. Story 9. I recently found that using artificial intelligence for data projects requires me to make more adjustments in the program than actually receiving meaningful output. I could have completed most of it by myself in half the time. Story 10. Any tips for folding t-shirts? There are methods where you pinch certain areas and make specific motions, allowing you to fold a shirt in less than a second. Alternatively, you can use a product that helps you lay a shirt in it, then fold up the sides and ends, resulting in a perfectly folded shirt every time. However, these methods aren't as effective as they seem. Each one begins with the shirt laid out neatly and flat. Getting shirts to that point is the majority of the work. When you take a shirt out of the dryer, it's often crumpled and tangled with other clothes, and it might even be inside out or partially inside out. By the time you get it ready to fold, most of the work is already done. Instead of laying it flat, you could simply create a fold as you set it down. Now the job is finished with no special techniques required. Story 11. Making a to-do list can sometimes be counterproductive. My boss spends more time creating a list that never gets completed than if she had just started working right away. I often jot down 1 to 3 important tasks to accomplish within the next day or week, but I'm referring to a list of 20 tasks filled with minor, unimportant items. Story 12. There are many aspects of office culture, such as open floor plans, the absence of personal or permanent desks, working in the office instead of from home, and team-building activities. The list goes on. I believe I would be much more productive without all of these distractions. Story 13. All the sales teams in my organization rave about their artificial intelligence tools to transcribe and record meetings, for which they often overbook themselves. They sit in silence while the technology transcribes the discussions, only unmuting if they need to speak. Congratulations! You have taken what should be 30 minutes of content and expanded it into 3 documents that now require your review and understanding. I have provided productivity consulting for various organizations and teams over my career, and meetings are the biggest drain on time. I generally find that most people can decline about 80% of them without missing anything. I advise them that if anyone objects to their absence, they should request an agenda in advance and minutes afterward. Most of the time, the agendas and minutes never materialize because the meetings were not important to begin with. If there is a relevant item on the agenda, they can address it first, handle what they need to, and their portion of the meeting can be reduced to 5 to 10 minutes rather than an hour. Story 14. Doing your hardest task first often means that you may struggle to make progress on it, leading to neglecting smaller, easier tasks that then get postponed to the next day or week. I find that I can effectively manage my to-do list by completing small tasks that take very little time first. After that, I tackle a challenging task until I encounter obstacles. Then, I switch to a medium task before returning to make further attempts on the difficult task. The time spent tracking all the tasks you haven't completed can be overwhelming. It creates a sense of impending pressure as the list of things to do continues to grow. Story 15. When I see kitchen pantries that have individual chip bags taken out of their boxes and set up on a shelf like they are in a store, along with granola bars and other snacks, I wonder why someone would go to such trouble. This kind of organization seems to be an attempt to quiet some internal struggle. It has not made anything easier or quicker. If you feel the need to take the packs of chips out of their boxes and arrange them neatly on the shelf, it might be time to seek help. You may have underlying issues. Story 16. There are needs and there are wants. Knowing the difference helps a lot. This concept applies to life in general as well as tasks and projects, time management, and getting things done. The best thing you can do is spend a little time up front deciding on scope, objectives, deliverables, what is absolutely necessary and what is not. Evaluate time, cost, and effort, and select a package of tasks that will help you reach your target. You can also trim unnecessary elements if something goes wrong or if you misjudged the difficulty or duration of a task. Part of the upfront planning allows you to recognize the tasks you want to do, the tasks you need to do, and additional tasks you might consider. This helps you identify which tasks can be trimmed away if needed to achieve your goals. This process works for everything from a shopping day to a multi-year company project. It can be applied in various situations. It requires a little overhead in task management, but it builds structure, awareness of scope and responsibilities, and allows for efficient planning and management. However, many people perceive this planning process as wasteful. Many individuals are unwilling to invest time and effort upfront because they want to jump right in. People want to see immediate progress. They seek incremental success and wish to build momentum. This urge to act quickly and figure things out later is often where the waste occurs. The desire for immediate gratification can trap people in their daily routines, as well as managers and leaders in business. Often, it is necessary to slow down in order to move faster. Story 17. Back when I worked, the buzzword was multitasking. Trying to do more than one thing at a time or frequently switching between tasks was common. I tended to take the first 30 to 60 minutes of the day to answer emails and then avoided looking at them for another 30 to 60 minutes after lunch. Story 18. Multitasking means you can do many things in a mediocre fashion. Rushing usually leads to having to redo the same task. It doesn't mean you can't move quickly. It means you can't move faster than you are comfortable with for a prolonged period. Focus and consistency are the keys to productivity. Story 19. More of a travel hack. The idea that you do not need to pack toiletries or pain relievers. Instead, buy them at your destination. I arrive at a strange airport with crowds, long lines, and confusing procedures. After delays at an ungodly hour, I need to figure out how to manage money and get transport to my hotel. However, I do not have toiletries or pain relievers. On top of all that, I now also need to find a shop or a pharmacy that is open to buy new items. I think grabbing a few items from my bathroom at home that weigh nothing and take up a tiny space in my luggage would be preferable. Story 20. Commuting to an office for collaboration can feel unnecessary. We often find ourselves sitting in cubicles on video calls that could be done from home. Instead, we spend hours of our personal time commuting each day, paying for gas and monthly parking. I would prefer to be productive working from my desk at home with my dog nearby. Story 21. Multitasking or switching tasks is generally less efficient than performing tasks linearly except for simple, routine, repetitive tasks. Constant interruptions can hinder productivity. Story 22. Using applications to order takeout from a restaurant is more time-consuming than simply calling, especially for a straightforward order. It is much simpler and does not require as much time when you can use both hands and keep your eyes on other tasks. Story 23. Following a wake-up time to get a head start will weigh you down over days, weeks, and months if it means you are not getting enough sleep. This can limit your productivity during the day, lead to more mistakes, reduce your capacity to recover from exercise, and diminish creativity and joy in life. Story 24. Multitasking, in my opinion, is the most common issue. It creates an illusion of efficiency but diminishes quality and extends the time needed to complete tasks. Prioritizing single tasking and deep work consistently proves to be more effective in the long run. Story 25. Taking more time organizing what you are going to do than actually just jumping in beast mode and getting started. Story 26. Cleaning your entire house before starting the task you were meant to be doing because you need to be in the right mindset. In reality, you could have finished the main task in that time. Story 27. VLOOKUP, for the life of me, I cannot get it to work and I always spend too much time trying to do it. Story 28. Sticking to a specific way of doing things is essential, especially when safety is concerned. However, when it comes to the little things, sometimes an adaptable mindset is more effective. Story 29. Multitasking is overrated. I used to pride myself on juggling multiple tasks at once until I tracked my output and realized I was constantly switching contexts, making mistakes, and taking twice as long to complete anything. Now I allocate time for individual tasks, and it's surprising how much faster and less stressed I am. The myth of multitasking is just that, a myth. Story 30. I think something that is often overlooked is that if you adhere strongly to the principle of working smarter, not harder, you'll notice that work faster is not included in that mantra. Story 31. In general, the idea of finding a faster and easier way often takes more time than simply doing the task. I appreciate that people try to find shortcuts because sometimes they work out, but I have wasted much more time attempting to make it easier than I would have spent just completing the task. Story 32. Trying to accomplish everything in a single trip can be risky. Instead, consider making 2 trips to eliminate the risk of an accident, which would take much longer to resolve. Story 33. My wife is an author with several published books and is fortunate to be someone who self-regulates well. When she sits down to write, she can just write. She focuses on romance and women's fiction, which tends to appeal to middle and upper middle class women who have a lot of time on their hands. These women have often stepped back from full-time work or are trying to break into romance writing because the barrier to entry is relatively low, and it has always been their dream. This market is a goldmine for marketers selling a variety of products and conferences to help authors get motivated, organize their writing spaces, structure their stories, keep track of information, and block out distractions. My wife gets immensely frustrated with some of the people she has met and stays in touch with, as they spend more time taking writing classes than actually writing and invest more in office decor than they will ever make from their books. They want to call themselves writers without actually producing much work. It is not to say that none of these resources are useful and everyone's process is different, but if you are not someone who can easily generate stories and get them onto paper in a timely manner, no amount of tools will save you. Story 34. Morning meetings are held to discuss our current projects. I find myself wasting an hour each morning listening to updates that have no impact on my work. Additionally, I spend time at the end of the day preparing my talking points for these meetings. Story 35. Spending more time working can lead to burnout and decreased efficiency. Make sure to clock in and clock out on time. Story 36. Phone calls instead of email. My former boss often criticized me for not using the phone. However, email is much more efficient and provides a written record. Story 37. Multitasking can sometimes be valuable, but you are usually better off finishing one task at a time. This approach is especially important for the quality of work. A singular focus is more efficient and effective than a divided focus. Story 38. Specific to mental health, internal family systems is presented as an easy way to confront and heal trauma. However, adding layers of narrative, such as fictional characters and metaphors that represent parts of the brain, introduces complexity that requires time and effort to manage. I am trained in internal family systems and quickly stopped using it because clients struggled to keep the characters and metaphors straight, so we would revert to speaking plainly. Story 39. I spend a lot of time moving my emails into specific folders in case I need to find the paint color for a construction project I completed 3 years ago. When I do find it, people think I'm a wizard, so there are some silver linings, I guess. Story 40. All of them work, just not for everyone. The biggest mistake people make is accepting it simply because a productivity expert says so. Different techniques work for different individuals. Be open-minded, listen to what they are trying to accomplish, experiment with new methods, adjust as needed, and make it work for you. Story 41. Collaboration and thorough reassessment of priority lists are important, but there must be a balance. I once had a staff member who spent the entire day creating lists and did not produce much work as a result. It is essential to know how to prioritize without letting it dominate your role. Story 42. The argument my wife and I have is that she thinks cycling through 3 to 4 tasks at a time is better than completing one task and then moving on to the next. Story 43. My experience from attending political conventions is that any proposed amendment to the agenda or procedures in the interest of time will actually waste time. The proposal has to be discussed and debated, and inevitably someone will propose an amendment to the amendment, which must also be discussed and debated. Eventually, there will be 1 or 2 votes and a moment while participants figure out what they just agreed on before they can return to business. Story 44. Multitasking. Address your top priorities in order of importance and time sensitivity, then move on to the next task. Do not attempt to do more than one thing at a time. Story 45. Management that hasn't worked the job they are managing is neither productive nor helpful. Leave the work to me. I know what I am doing. Story 46. Here's where the problem arises. As humans, we created the term multitasking to describe doing multiple activities during the same time period. However, it is impossible for us to fully engage in 2 tasks simultaneously that require our complete attention. The term was never intended to imply that we can do so. The way you are attempting to use it is incorrect. It is meant to refer to performing several tasks within the same time frame. A secretary is a person who multitasks. At a minimum, they are doing something on their computer while answering the phone and assisting someone who approaches them. Multitasking is not literally performing 2 activities at the same time. It involves managing multiple tasks concurrently. Story 47. Depends on where you think the time saving happens. In my job, I often create my own documentation in a more concise and organized manner, making it easier for my partner carriers to find what they need. While it may take a few extra minutes on my end, compared to the multiple emails required to confirm the information, it would take my partner carriers significantly more time to locate everything if I simply forwarded what I received. This process also helps me memorize information about an order as I input it, allowing me to quickly recall details if someone asks about it. Story 48. The time I had the brilliant idea to put all my DVD box set discs into small, flimsy, multicolored covers and laminate all the inserted covers from every season of every show. The laminated covers looked nice, but I wasted a lot of time, energy, and money on that project, and I became burned out before I finished. Then streaming services started emerging, and I was frustrated. Story 49. Most things that are not accomplishing the necessary tasks are a waste of time. Many actions are simply procrastination and serve to avoid doing the work. It is better to complete the work inefficiently than to spend time seeking optimal solutions without actually doing the work. Story 50. Personality testing. My significant other's organization spent thousands of dollars to have a consultant come in and tell everyone they were artists or diplomats or something similar. It was an absolute waste of time and was never referenced by anyone again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.